the team from Calvin College. We just want to thank you for listening to our presentation. And we will be presenting our two new innovations to mobile driving in MyVoice and CollaboraDrive. Next slide. The first integration of the mobile device into the vehicle, the way that it communicates, is DROP, the device recognition, operation, and power. Essentially, when you get into a car, I know whenever I try to put my mobile device on there, I have to plug everything in, and sometimes I forget to do it, so I'm trying to do it when I'm driving. And I just think the basis of this is you just set it down, and it syncs, and it powers it, and it does everything for you just by dropping it. So when you purchase the car, you get a drop jacket, and this has the induction coils in it for the power. And for the center console track. And we would use the MAC address of the mobile device to be able to signify which user is in the car driving. And that allows the car then to adjust for the climate, for the seating, and other settings that the device wants, like the radio. And in that we used spatial separation. Only the driver's mobile device is synced to the car, and it is limited. In that way, it's limited by safety restrictions, like you can't access your email or texting while driving. And all internet-enabled devices have unique MAC addresses, so that's how we're able to do it.
Why Mac?
It's a MAC address.
Purely for
Not for Mac devices.
Not Macintosh.
Media access.
Media access.
Yeah. Next slide. Once it is synced, and so you just set it down, then all your music and automotive apps can then be accessed through the voice controls. So once you set it down, you're all ready to go. There's no other manual things that you need to do. And this also allows the car to use the advanced voice recognition system through the phone that will be explained later. Next slide.
So MyVoice, the first application that we're proposing to develop is called MyVoice. And kind of the driving motivation for this is that intuition is different for everyone. Not everyone's going to be able to use the same control set equally. So what we are proposing with this is a customizable voice recognition software. When you're at home, when you're sitting down on your couch sometime and you have plenty of time to spare, you can sit down and go through and you can say, I want to use this voice command to activate this feature in the car. So for instance, next slide. For instance, what you can do is that you can say, I don't want to say volume up to make the volume louder of my radio. What I want to say instead is make it louder. And so on your own time, you can sit down on your couch, say, for the volume up command, I want to say make it louder. That way, when you set your phone into your car with the integration device, when you say make it louder in your car, the volume will go up. And we propose that this will be able to be used for various applications of the car. So the radio system, the climate control for vents and whatnot, and also the heads-up display will be able to be controlled in this way. Next slide.
So this is just an overview so you get where information and data is going. The user, the driver, sits there and they say their command, which is picked up by the car microphone, which, since the car is synced with the phone through the drop system, the phone picks it up and then sends the data from that for the command to the car control. So volume up will turn the volume up in the car, and also you see volume up on the heads-up display. Next slide, please.
So the innovation concepts we used here is the goals we wanted to tackle were safety. We wanted to make sure that you weren't taking your attention off the road or your hands off the wheel to using this application. And then the secondary goal is multitasking. You want to do many things with this device. Now this seems like the separation principle in that you can't have both. You can't have both safety and multitasking. But in this way, we think that you can. And to do this, we were trying to think of what we could leverage. So the humans have 6 senses that we thought. You have taste, touch, hearing, seeing, smelling, and then we also have talking that we use. Now, smelling and tasting probably aren't going to be used in a car so much. So we're figuring out what else can we leverage to use this. So we're relying heavily on talking to do this feature. And our tagline for this, for MyVoice, is that it's the passenger that isn't there. Normally you would talk to your passenger and say, hey, could you turn the iPod down, or could you change the track? But instead, you can talk to your car, and it'll do it for you. So I went through the time separation and place separation a little bit earlier.
And the thing that's great about this that I just want to emphasize is that it's going to know your voice. So if you have an accent or if you have a quieter voice, it's going to know your voice alone, and it's going to pick that up because of the MAC address from the phone. So it's going to remember your own inflections.
Next slide.
Does that mean it wouldn't respond to someone else? If somebody stole my vehicle and I'd say, take me home, would it say, sorry, I don't recognise your voice?
Well, if you
You're
plug
a
in
thief.
your phone, then it would work. But it would also recognize the general. But many cars do have the voice activation already. They just don't always work for people of different voice inflections. Everybody's different.
That's what we, on the way over here actually, we were using Ford Sync. And we had a really hard time, with volume controls. There wasn't built-in volume controls to that. And then we had a hard time, we had to say the same commands over and over, and it was really frustrating. So we thought, well, why don't we use our personal phone devices, which we carry around anyways, and use this to make it more compatible. Now, CollaboraDrive is a second application that we're proposing to be developed, and it relies heavily on this increased voice recognition. Next slide. What this application does is collect GPS data while you're driving in your car. So, for place separation, when you have your phone synced to your car using our drop, then it'll start collecting GPS data of where you are and how long it took you to get there. So if you're in a traffic jam, for instance, it'll know that you're sitting in the same spot for 20 minutes. And you can leverage that distributed network of mobile devices to kind of collaboratively see where you are and where everyone else is in relation to you. And you'll be able to predict arrival times and traffic stoppages based on your current traffic situations and historical traffic data. Next slide, please.
So this flow differs from the machine-human interface we described earlier, in that you go user to the car microphone to your phone, but instead of going immediately to car controls, which aren't even part of this app, the phone syncs with servers, and that cloud draws data from like GPS, but also all the other users of the application. So someone has driven part of your route before, and it goes to that cloud and calculates that time. Maybe they did it at 7:30 a.m., you're driving at 7:35. So it synthesizes all the info from all the other users, time of day, location, and combines that together. So the more people use the application, the better the info, the better the predicting actually gets. It synthesizes different routes. So if you have 3 separate routes and they overlap a little bit with yours, then it just takes the bits and pieces to give you the most accurate prediction of your time. And it uses that with 3G and 4G connections, sends it back to your phone, and then that goes to your heads-up display, so you see on time, or you're running late, or there's delays up ahead. Next slide, please. So some of the innovation concepts that we thought throughout the project today is time separation. Like Peter mentioned before, you're sitting on your couch, you're going somewhere later, maybe to a movie to meet some friends. So you want to know, when should I leave to get to the movie theater by 10 o'clock? And you use your app for that, and when you're driving, it can advise you on the fastest route to get you there on time when you want to be there. There's also segmentation, because the app comes separate from the machine interface. Space separation. It only collects data when you're in the car, only when you're synced in and driving someplace. You don't want your phone, you're just walking around, and then you don't know, you don't need data for that. And the main thing, ideality, you get everyone's data for $2 a month. One person gets the world's data for that price. Next slide, please.
Next.
All right, what we looked at the target market, and then we divided age group 25 to 54 because of their user interface and how they're updated with the technology, and their then gender is female, occupation, sales, and
Okay, our financials are going to be, it's a really high escalation or high returns on this because it's all going to be an intangible asset. So after you sell the first one, there's no more cost for it. Obviously, as you can see, there's we did a value curve here, changed, kind of did it by the Ford Sync, separate apps, and My Life. You can see that we're totally different, or the red curve, totally different than the rest of them. Next slide. Financials will be increasing heavily over the next, and questions. Cool.
Do you have any more slides?
Well, just keep it on this, and then, because our next one's just questions. So if you do have any questions.
That's your second to last slide.
This is our
Yes,
second.
the last
This
slide
is
says
it.
questions.
And what's nice is the customer wanted to know if there were more slides.
I'd love to talk to you more about it. We'd definitely love to talk. We didn't get to say everything.
So just, can you just run through the per unit fees real quick? I'll make that my question so that you can go through.
Yeah, we thought that we would do about $2 a month for the traffic app because we have two
Okay.
separate things. Voice customization is going to be $0 for the first year. When you buy the in-car add-on, it's going to be $700. The Ford Sync is $395, and then they don't have any fees for the first 3 years. We think it would be better to get the customer into it quicker, like that. And then, so it's going to have escalating returns here, manufacturing with that $500 for the heads-up device, the display that is above your dashboard.
Mhm.
It's a projection, and then $100 for microphone, $100 for manufacturing. This is just some rough estimates that we did. We did a lot of market research, though, just so you know.
Okay.
So,
So theoretically, this works with any smartphone? Is that what?
Any
That's the
smartphone.
goal. It's,
Any smartphone, so there's a
Droid,
corresponding
iPhone,
app
anything.
to allow you to manage things when you're away from your
that's the
vehicle.
advantage of using the MAC address, is that it's not distinct on any technology. It's,
So what's the difference between just building all this into the car and having it on a mobile device? Are there distinct?
It's
What-
it's personalizable. It's
it is built into the car. We do have the total technology in the car, but when you plug your phone in, it's going to actually have your personal data. So it's
So-
going to be an individualized
So
experience.
a husband and wife that drive the same car, they have different settings, they have different
Okay.
voice commands, and they can both use that depending on.
Or even for like
Yes,
rental cars
yes.
that have the
That
that
have
have this enabled, you could get your seat to go to the right setting
Okay.
just while you're traveling.
How scalable do you see this? And I asked this question, I have 2 small children and a wife that rides in the car with me. I don't care about the radio when I'm in the car, but my wife's phone would probably be the one that would control the system. How could I give her control of half the car where I keep control over the other half of the vehicle?
we're using Wi-Fi for a lot of this communication, and so as long as you have a network-enabled device in the car, it should be able to recognize it. And so if you can download the app, you can also do it that way.
So,
are
except
you
multiple
talking-
MAC addresses, because my kids have cell phones, my wife,
Right.
has potentially 4 phones in the car at any given instance, or anything like that.
That's why we
And
that's
who-
why we chose Wi-Fi, and also with the driver's one being on the pad and being the one that's recognized as the MAC address, then you can allow that one to be the only one that's you don't allow to have
But
email
you're-
address.
But I'm
You're
saying,
thinking
what I
that-
want it to be multiple.
Yeah, but then theirs could be synced and they could still.
And one aspect,
One last question, and then we have to move on.
one aspect also that is, it's not just a one-to-one command to, result. You can have different voice commands stored as a volume up. So if you program your kids to each have a voice command, your wife and you, that can all feed into the same increased volume.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
One last question.
You get the last
I haven't
one.
asked the question yet. What about when you're travelling around from state to state or even out of state to Canada and you've got roaming charges and costs that are going to be pumping up and down there for your 3G and 4G network connections? Thought about that aspect?
Well, we were using more of the information that's going to be actually put on the Mac.
Right.
So since it's plugged in, it's not going to need to have any roaming or anything like that, I don't believe.
Are you talking about the traffic application or the voice application?
The traffic application, when you're feeding in from and exchanging data amongst other drivers.
We didn't take that into
Just
consideration.
consider the United States market.
We did consider, though, business travelers and that you could put this into rental cars and plug your own phone and then get the rental card up.
Just gives the point of consideration.
Yeah.
If you do drive and you've got roaming costs, it can be hundreds of dollars a month. You know,
Right.
therefore-
Most of the carriers here in North America though don't have that anymore.
I
You
guess
go
that's
from
why we
state to
didn't-
state, it's nationwide programs. I mean, going into Canada, you could have some
Yeah,
issues,
yeah.
but within the continental United States, I don't think that's.
That was our model that we were
I guess we
thinking of.
focused on the U.S. business traveler more.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, nice job, you guys.
Thank you guys.